Good afternoon, 49er faithful. Welcome to the very first episode of a call-in show for Rob Schuh's channel. This one is reserved for sneakerheads because this is a video call-in event. I do want to take a moment to welcome our most recent Sneakerhead edition. Waruna has joined the channel and is welcome to call in. So I just put in the chat there, you'll see coming from Rob Schuh, there's a link to the YouTube page of my channel. It'll take you specifically to a post on the community tab. And on that post is a link to StreamYard. That will take you backstage. It's basically the call-in link. If you are a sneakerhead, you will have access to that post on the community tab. You go there, you log in, and you will be backstage. I have Sean 9519ers kicking it backstage right now, about to be the inaugural guest on the inaugural episode of this call-in show. Very excited to have people in here. See folks in the chat. Ellis10 is there in the chat. What's up, Ellis? See Mocha Frost coming in. Jamie Bryant is here. Again, follow that link that I put into the chat if you would like to be a portion of the show. The way in which this is going to work is very simple. It is whatever you want to talk about. And so as I bring in Sean 9519er, Sean's going to ask me any questions he may have. We're going to get into a bit of a dialogue, and I'm going to keep it going with Sean as we await anyone else coming into the waiting room. Definitely excited to have you guys in. A couple of ground rules when you get on. Just nothing strange, no cursing, no foul language, things of that nature. Keep it PG-13 for YouTube, for the YouTube viewers, and keep it pretty much 49ers related. Anything that is a personal question for me, I'm always down to answer, but I think most people are most interested in 49ers content. Speaking of 49ers content, we are getting Sean into the call right now. Sean, welcome to the program. You are the first call-in guest of the first call-in show on Rob Schuh's channel. Man, how are you doing, Sean?
Rob, I'm good. I appreciate it. It's very nice to meet you, and it's really good to put a name to a face, per se, for myself. I've been doing a lot of commenting the last few weeks. And you definitely have the best content, in my opinion, when it comes from a fan perspective. And appreciate it very much. I look forward to doing this as much as we can moving forward as the season comes to a tail end.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support of everybody on the channel. It really has been an amazing journey. Just thinking back to, starting in like February, March, watching Grant's channel that he's got going on over there, getting on his channel for the first time. Man, I remember the first time I did his channel, came on, and man, I've done plenty of things in front of large groups of people. I've done a lot of public speaking in my day. I'll be honest though, man, when I first got onto Grant's channel, I was in this office, my heart was palpitating, it was beating. It was like I was a kid getting ready for my first day of school. It was a cool experience, and I've just really enjoyed how this channel became and blossomed into what it is, and it feels like it's still growing. We just got a new sneakerhead, I Forgive You, has become a YouTube member, so I forgive you. That link, I'm putting it back in there. You should be able to follow that link as well now. Yeah, it's been a killer journey getting to this point and getting to meet folks like yourself, Sean. Tell me a little bit about your 49er background and what brought you to be a member of the faithful.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So, and I'm a 39-year-old married man, 2 daughters here in Southern California.
Nice.
Actually in the backyard of New Rams land down here with SoFi. But I'm completely 100% been Niner faithful since the 1988 Super Bowl.
Nice.
Sorry, you're gonna hear. Can you shut that door?
Hey, that's okay. The kids can get on the live stream
Oh,
too.
here we go. Get my love. They will be 49er faithful too.
Yes,
I
yes,
do have
they
to go.
will. That's
I
the
do have to
beauty of
go.
having the little ones is you get to mold their minds and introduce them to the 49ers early.
I will say my oldest, I took her to. She was born in August. I took her to the 2016 our opening game. I can't remember, it was Chicago, whoever it was. So she was only a couple months old, and
Oh,
we
wow.
brought the mother-in-law to watch her in the hotel room while we went to the game.
Oh, that's
So
great.
yeah. So, anyways, back to '88. Shoot, TVs were small back then. There
Yes, they
wasn't any
were.
LED or anything special. So my dad had a Super Bowl party just to have the party. It wasn't even 49ers specific, but obviously we were playing the Broncos. Told me to go upstairs. I couldn't be a part of the party. I was only 6 years old. And
Oh, that's a bummer.
hey, it's okay. He gave me a little TV. I got to watch them shred the Broncos. And at that point in time, that's my favorite team. So I wanted to find out if they would ever be in Southern California. My dad said, well, you're lucky. They're in the same division as the Rams, and they come down here and play at Anaheim Stadium at that time, where the Angels play here. And I was able to go to my first 49er game that next year as a Christmas present, which was the beginning of just fandom. I mean,
That's
talk about just
awesome.
absolutely. So that's
Now,
the beginning. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I learned today that, I mean, it definitely doesn't stop there for you. You've got stories that carry into Candlestick Park and
Yeah.
Levi's Stadium. Is that right?
Yeah, so I had season tickets from 2011 through 2017. And as funny as it sounds, it wasn't on purpose. I literally gave up the tickets. 3 weeks later, Lynch and Shanny were hired.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I mean, and the only reason I gave them up was, as I had mentioned, I started a family, and
Right. Well, that's a
I'm in
sensible
Southern.
reason to give them up. I mean, if there's going to be a valid reason, that's top of the list.
And it's really because I'm in SoCal. I mean, I
Right.
didn't I didn't fly up there. I mean, if you want to know what I do for work, I'm a national sales manager for a big lighting company down here in SoCal. So I
Nice.
drive. It was no big deal. I drive all over the country,
Yeah, right.
and I would drive up there, no problem. But once you have kids, it's just if they're sick, if there's anything going on, it's just a struggle. So I definitely wanted to make sure I had my NFL Sunday ticket and never missed a game from there. But I did carry it into Levi's. And I'll tell you what's interesting about Levi's. I know a lot of your fans and such have been to a game, but being there before the stadium was open for season ticket holders, spending time before the field was even painted,
Right.
being with the cheerleaders, meeting a lot of the executives, just basically a thank you for being a season ticket holder and paying that crazy SBL
Yeah, right.
that
Big
you had
time
to
meet
pay.
and greet as your benefit for having coughed up X amount of dollars.
And it was expensive to get down there. And I was in section 145. And at that time, I don't know what it is now because I've been away from it for 4 years, but I was I think, 6,000 per seat just for the
Oof.
SBL.
They hit you
And
big time.
yeah. And so, which was fine. I mean, whatever. It was okay, but you pay it every first of the year. And so
Oof.
as it came up and we were terrible, right? I mean,
Yep.
those were the years when we basically were bailing from Harbaugh.
Oh, that was
And
so painful to watch.
yeah, exactly. And so to me, as a season ticket holder, to complement the distance I had to travel,
Yeah,
I was like, well, where's York putting his money? Because
right.
he wasn't putting his money to do anything for us other than raise hot dog prices and beer prices and
Yeah, he
everything
was
else.
he was
So
putting money in his pocket is where he was putting money.
exactly. So all that contributed to why I'm not a season ticket holder anymore up there, but definitely been to many road games. I've been to Lambeau, watched us in 2018. I was at the Patriot 49er 2012 game before we lost to Seattle when they flexed us to Sunday Night Football. That's when we
Yes.
beat Brady for the first time in December at Foxborough. And I will tell you, if there's any Patriot fans on here, nothing but respect. But that was the harshest stadium I'd ever been in for an opposing fan. And I've been to Philly, Oakland, when they were in LA, you name it. They were the harshest. Those Boston guys that come down there, that was and I'll tell you what's interesting. That was the only game I'd ever been to, period, where you never sat down.
Oh,
The in,
wow.
the entirety of the game in the bottom bowl was 100% standing up. Now it was raining, almost snowing. It was nasty, but that was a different experience to be standing. And I actually flew my dad out there because he's a Patriot fan, going back to their first Super Bowl with their long snapper was Lonnie Paxton. He's famous for the Snow Angel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He went to my high school, and so that's
Very nice.
that was his tie-in to them. But
I had a tie-in. I was born in Massachusetts, so up until '85, you would have labeled me a Patriots fan, although I was, only like 7 at the time, and so wasn't really into football until we got to the Bay Area and discovered the Niners. But I had some allegiance to the Patriots, and I've yet to hit that stadium. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to meet all those fans you're talking about.
yeah, I mean, I will tell you, there's definitely nothing. It's like, have you been to Arizona Stadium?
Yes, that one I've checked off.
So very similar to where you go into Phoenix, you're like, oh, this is the city. Then you have to bail to go to the stadium in the I think it's the 101 or 202 loop. Similar to Foxborough, you totally leave Boston. You go into the suburbs of La La Land, and then boom, there's a stadium, Foxborough, which, Brady's wife, Giselle, she was a big part in all of the retail that they built into the side of the stadium. So you've got like Gucci and, all those big brand names for shopping to attract all the women
right
into there to enjoy themselves while, men do the football and things of that nature. So
exactly. Dallas is similar, where you fly into Dallas and you think you're going to be there in Dallas for the stadium, and no, you got to head out to the burbs. I mean, much like people who are flying into San Francisco and then having to head out to Santa Clara. Just to clarify for anyone who's coming in late, because I know Silverado Kev asked this, that you were on here. So this is the Sneakerhead call-in show. Right now we got Sean on here as our first guest caller. Members of the Sneakerhead community can hit the link that I've thrown into the chat over there. I think it's that side on my screen. And just hit that link and you will be in backstage and we will work you in. Just want to get people caught up with what they are watching here. Right now, we are getting caught up on Sean's history being a 49er faithful. All right, please continue. So you had the experience at Candlestick Park, and I think you showed an image, much like myself, where you're holding on to a couple pieces of Candlestick memorabilia. Is that correct?
it's actually what I watch the games in every single Sunday or Thursday or
Saturday
at my house. I roll them in. So basically, I've got my number 12 and 13 seat from Candlestick. And if anyone's bought those seats, they redid the steel sides to them, so you weren't getting it rusted up. So I had that basically with a fabricator of mine, weld on wheels and a plate to it, so it could. I mean, I'm a 300-pound guy. I'm a big guy. So to be able to sit on it and not have any flexing or movement, and so that's what I do. I sit in those out here on the other room here, the big screen, and
that's awesome.
That's where I tell my wife, I have 3.5 hours, 17 times minimum, a year where I'm a 49er fan. Yes. I'll be husband and father every other minute of the day, but those 3.5. So I actually bought her a present that says, we interrupt this marriage for football season. And I set it up, and just in case she forgets, I set it right in the front whenever we're on. So it's a fun time. But yeah, so Candlestick, though, I want to address too. I see a lot of times in the comments from a lot of people in general talking about how Levi's Stadium, it's not home field advantage. The stadium was built for Silicon Valley, and it's nothing compared to Candlestick.
Yep.
I agree 1,000,000%. The one thing about Candlestick, now we can all be honest. I mean, it was gross, right? I mean, everything was gross about it from a 2021, a modern perspective.
Yeah, exactly. It was definitely an older stadium, no doubt about it.
When it came to intimidation, it all started at tailgating. There's one, and then obviously there's people that do some dumb, crazy stuff, there's fights or whatever it may be, but when I mean intimidating, I mean fans would come into that stadium thinking their team was going to win. And by the time they walked into that stadium and we were already doing the Montana song, prior to even getting off the kickoff, you can just see the fans like, oh my gosh, like I walked into a UFC arena and this is going to get ugly. I don't think we have a chance. That's one thing that doesn't happen anymore. Levi's is, it's just, It's just pretty. It's like what I say down here. I'm in Southern California. It's no longer Dodger Stadium. You have Angel Stadium.
Right.
If you want to go
Right.
to Disney and glamour, you go sit there and eat your hot dogs and hang out. If you want to get crazy nitty gritty with the fans, go sit in the lower bowl, with Dodger fans, and it's just a different feel when it comes
Yeah.
to what you're experiencing for that 3 hours.
It really is, and the tailgating, there's no comparison. I mean, the vast majority of lots around Levi's are satellite lots, and so you don't have that conglomeration of fans coming together. It on Candlestick Point, you were surrounded. Like, I used to think I was clever, so I would drive in. For my college years, I was driving in from like '96 till the early 2000s. I was driving in from Stockton for game days. I'd meet my dad there at the stadium, and I'd come in across the Bay Bridge and roll in that way. And I would always try and park in that neighborhood behind Candlestick because I was a college kid. I didn't want to spend my money on parking. So I would roll in and just find a spot on the side of the street and then walk down to the stadium. But you would get around the stadium and it was just a sea of cars and seagulls and fine dining from around Candlestick as far as the eye could see, and it was a different vibe. You don't get that at Levi's. It is very much a more neutral type of vibe, and the crowd around it and the parking lots much smaller and less centrally located. It makes a big difference.
No, you're exactly right. And the one thing I miss more than what you just referenced, which is true, you're talking about parking up where they had that trolley back there, right? Okay. That was sketchy up there too.
It was. I had kids one time threaten me. They're like, "Hey, you can't park here without paying us." I was like, "This is a public street here." They were like, "Yeah, I know, but if you don't pay us, we'll slash your tires." I was like, "Check. I will move my car." Yeah, that was definitely a sketchier neighborhood behind Candlestick.
But I miss the music in the tailgating because even with, I forget, it's been 4 years. Is it Red Lot 1 or Green Lot 1, whatever is over the two arches there at Levi's?
Yep.
There's so much security and so much going on there that everything's kind of isolated. You're individual, where at Candlestick, it became one. You was like, whose party am I going to? I'm over here with these 1,000 people. And
Totally.
it was just such an amazing experience. So that I just wanted to attest to everyone that says that is I 1,000,000% agree that you don't walk into Levi's as jacked for the game as you do going up those small, thin escalators at Candlestick, where you're crammed next to the other team's fans. They've got to hear it for at least a minute to get to the top there. So I just wanted to touch on that. I
have so many memories riding up those escalators, heading to the concession stand, grabbing a soda and some salted peanuts on the way down to lower reserve section 31. There was something so charming about Candlestick and so amazing about the history there. And there was something about playoff football when that soggy field would start to bleed through, right? The high tides at that time of year would make the turf just unmanageable. The 49ers seemed to grasp it. Incoming teams did not. It was a great home field advantage. It was a historic feeling stadium. And this one now, Levi's, not that there's so much wrong with it, it's just missing that element. It's missing something that is indescribable about what Candlestick meant to me personally. And maybe it's my own personal attachment to it.
That's 100% valid on all of that. I would say also to that, when another team comes into that field, there is nothing to fear. There's no mystique. It's not like us. It's like, for example, I think earlier this year, weeks ago, I had commented, there's no more home field advantage this year, just based on statistics. Now, I'm not saying that's not factual at Lambeau when it's freezing cold, etc. But you look at the Arizona Cardinals, even on Monday night, I didn't even realize that I believe they're 3-3 at home and undefeated on the road. But yet, if you look at their home games that they're 3-3 at, they barely got by us with Lance, 17-10.
Right.
Which by all means, we basically handed them 16 points by going for it all the time. But you have that game where they could have lost, and nobody remembers Minnesota missed a field goal like week 2 or 3.
Right.
So in all reality, they could be.
It was like a 40-yarder too. It wasn't a long kick. It should have been. I think it may have even been a 37-yarder. It should have been a loss for them.
Yeah. So you look at them, for example, and they're not top seed now, but either way, from their record, no one's afraid to go into their building and play because they don't have any history there either. You look at the Rams at SoFi. Who's afraid to go into SoFi and play there? They don't have any history there. And Green Bay, although they have history there, one thing I can say, I was there in 2018. It's not the Brett Favre years. It's not their fans are very, I'll put it this way, their fans are incredibly nice. So they're not, so they're not loud.
I went in the 2018 season opener to Minnesota, and I think similar fan bases, right? It's that Midwest niceness. Honestly, just the people in the stands could not have been kinder, could not have been sweeter and gentler people, and very well-educated football fans as well, right? Are very much in on the fact that when your offense is in 3rd and short, you better be as quiet as a church mouse. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, when it's 3rd down on defense, you're rattling the cages. It's nice to be around football fans that truly understand the nuances of being a good fan.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, the funny thing about Green Bay is everyone talks about the cold, right? No one talks about, Aaron Rodgers is different at home than he is on the road, or their defense. It's always just about the weather. Well, Kaepernick went in there and took them down.
Yes,
and that's when Rodgers had a much better team.
I believe didn't wear sleeves that game either, like busted out the Kaepernick tattoos.
He had to kiss his bicep. So, But it's just those types of things there. Look what the Giants did when the Packers were 15-1. I didn't see them blink. They won the Super Bowl. So, I mean, when it comes down to that, to me, I don't see any team in the playoffs with home field advantage. Even if Tampa Bay, I mean, I see a lot of people on here going, I say I don't fear any of the teams just based on our styles. I see most comments say I'm afraid of Tampa Bay, or, Tampa Bay is our worst matchup or whatever. Maybe our worst because someone has to be worst.
Yes.
But do you think Bruce Arians, who coached against the 49ers, and do you think anyone other than Tom Brady is going to want to play us the first round? Do you see what they did against Washington last year in the first round? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
It is definitely, in my mind, the worst matchup for us, but still beatable, to your point, that it is absolutely a winnable matchup. It's poor because you definitely don't want to incur so many miles of travel. No question that a longer flight takes away from the body, right, just physically. And then Tampa Bay presents a unique challenge with their defensive front in the ability to both stop the run and get after the passer, and presents that interior pressure against the 49ers, which historically Jimmy has really struggled with. But I've got to say, I still agree with you. I think that they are definitely beatable. I'm not wild about our cornerbacks having to go up against their robust receiving options with Tom Brady at the helm, but you just attack the head of the monster. You just hit Brady. He doesn't respond well to pressure. He doesn't respond well to being hit continually. If Nick Bosa is in the backfield disrupting him, I'm on board with the fact that they are a beatable team.
And if we have one wild card in that situation, hence it's a wild card game, no pun intended. Do you know if we were ever going to hope for a Jimmy G Saints game from 2019, or just whatever any of us want to call a perfect Jimmy G game, whatever that looks like, you think he's going to want to do that against Brady for the first opportunity that he has the chance to put him to sleep? I mean, I just think as a fan for the Niners, that would be, if he can't get up for that game, then fine. Okay, he's as average as it can be, and then that's fine, because that's his litmus test right there. I mean, that's all he's had to deal with, even when Brady wanted to become a Niner a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Granted, we went with them, but I mean, that right there, you talk about a storyline. I think that in itself, may jack up our teammates to back up Jimmy G as well and want to get that win for him even more. So, I mean, that's just things like that people don't think about when they're looking at that paper, right?
Yeah, right. The storylines that can motivate the players on the team as well. And those matter, especially in an East Coast matchup where you need the team to come out with their butts on fire, right? So that they avoid that dreaded East Coast slow start. I think you're right. Jimmy has a huge faction of fans within the team, people that are rooting for his success, that are just irritated at 49er faithful who continue to question whether he's a starting caliber quarterback. And I don't blame them. He's their teammate. He's their locker room mate. He is someone that they respect, that they go to battle with. And quite frankly, he's someone that delivers on a regular basis, not as consistently as one would like. And that's clearly why the 49ers have decided to mortgage so much of their future in an attempt to upgrade the position. But I think that the vast majority of people are oversimplifying what Jimmy Garoppolo brings to the organization, what he brings to the team, what he brings to the offense, and they're ignoring a pretty robust skill set that he does have that, yes, is also detracted by the mistakes that he makes and those things that occur on a far too regular basis for someone who's a bit more of a game manager.
Yeah, it's funny, the Jimmy G talk, that's obviously the topic, right, all year.
Yes, it is.
And I mean, to me, I'm a little different than I look at a lot of the comments because I just want to get the temperature, right, of our fan base. And
sure.
Not the haters, but, everyone who you can tell has an investment into this team, whether it's emotionally, financially. I'm an eye guy. I look with my eyes, right?
Yes,
I don't need to look at the stat sheet. I completely understand when you throw a pick. I don't care who you are. You throw a pick, you gave the other team the ball, it's a problem. You're Kyle Williams in the NFC Championship, you fumble a ball, the Giants win, it's a problem. There's a lot of problems with turnovers, but at the end of the day, a win is a win.
Yes.
I mean, I know we had a better defense in 2019, obviously. There's a lot of things we had different back then. But since when does Jimmy G ever crumble under pressure? Like when does he ever, show us signs of fans or anybody that I don't want to be your quarterback? If I'm not mistaken, I haven't looked the stat up, so someone can call me out on this, but I believe since 2017, after he turns the ball over via fumble or interception, he has the best passer rating on the next drive. And the reason I say that is important is because, well, what happens, right? A snowball effect, like what we have in Seattle every time we play there. Yes. One turns into 10 issues, right? But that's important that no one really looks at because to them, they're blinded by the picks and they miss the wide receiver down the middle, and Grant and those guys go over their game film, all 22, and dissect them through, all the way through and through. Well, the one thing is it'd be nice to get a quarterback on here or a quarterback, yes, whether you be ex-NFL or college or whatever it may be, to go through that film with you. Because at the end of the day, that guy's standing on the grass. He's not up 27 feet in the air with a camera, being able to see our bird's eye view, on film. It's really hard in Kyle's offense. He gives you a number one, he gives you a number two, he gives you a number three. Most of the time, our number one is open. I mean, if you really look at it, most of the time it is. Not all the time.
No, but that's because of that phenomenal play design. I think you're absolutely right about that.
And so if number three is open, unfortunately, he is not the best quarterback of all time. We all know that. He's trying to run Kyle's offense with as minimal mistakes as possible. And where does he get in trouble? Just like the Seattle game. That was going to be a completion, but Bobby Wagner's smart. Do we not remember Bobby Wagner 2 years ago when after the game, when they beat us, he said, "Oh, I was at the line calling the plays for Garoppolo. I knew exactly what Jimmy was doing." I mean, we all remember that was the post-game presser, right? If someone's going to pick him off as a middle linebacker, it's him. Now, Hendricks got us, obviously, with Minnesota back in 2019 in that game where they shut him down and we started running. But I think what we all miss, in my opinion, of course, Kyle Shanahan's a smart dude. I mean, he is smart. He may look foolish at times, and there's certain games this year where you're like, what is the play calling? Why aren't we running? What are we passing?
He was off his game to start this year.
Yeah, I mean, of course, right? I mean, anybody can be criticized. I mean, shoot, who gave Bruce Arians any credit last year when they were 7-5?
Sure.
Oh, fire him. You've got all the tools in the world. Oh, then you win a Super Bowl. There's no patience. Like, no one has patience in this world. At the end of the day, can you imagine if we win the Super Bowl? I don't care how. I don't care if Lance is the quarterback and we win. But could you imagine if we win?
Oh, yes,
All
I
the
can
7 weeks
imagine
of
that.
criticism it doesn't even mean anything. Like it's irrelevant, right? We're such a this week, then we just worry about this week, this week. Ponte said it. I was watching him, I think it was today, yesterday. He's like, yeah, last week I was shredding Jimmy. But so what? We got the W. I ain't shredding Jimmy anymore. I'm here now. Let's go. We won. That's what we're talking. That's really the truth of it. It's like when you lose, oh God, these next 3 days suck. I don't even want to turn on the computer.
Yes.
I'll turn it on
Yeah.
Thursday when we're scouting the next team, right?
Right.
But in essence of it, if you look at each game plan that he's put together, even in 2019, he builds and builds and builds the season. He sets teams up. He when you see someone twice, like the Rams will have something different in week 18, assuming it matters.
100%.
Green Bay, he had to play them, twice. He had some wrinkles in there for him. So at the end of the day, he just getting in the dance. He knows we're not going to be a 1 seed. We're not going to get a home game, most likely, obviously. So that's where I sit back and go, look, he has Jimmy running certain plays because those are the plays he sees to win that game. It doesn't mean if they see him again in the playoffs, we'll run that same game plan, if we'll have the same routes. But
Sure.
ultimately, we have 3 incredible weapons on offense. He can pick and choose who he wants to use in what game, right? I mean, you have a Kittle game, you have an Ayuk game. Debo's always going to be in the game plan. He has to be. But I just think Kyle, he has a plan that he foresees ahead. And as long as we don't make any stupid mistakes like we do on special teams, of course, if Jimmy throws picks, we do some fumbles or whatever it may be, as long as they don't throw us over into a loss that we weren't intended to get based on what we're projected in that game, I really think we can be strong in the playoffs. I really, really think none of those teams want to see us.
No, the 49ers have what it takes to travel and win in the playoffs. If you can pack your defense and your running game with you when you travel in the playoffs, that is a recipe for success. And so long as we maintain the health of Elijah Mitchell and Debo Samuel, I have very little doubt that the 49ers can run over basically anyone that they come up against. I do think it would be a harder road to plow with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, given the strength of their defensive line, but it is by no means an impossibility. And certainly with Kyle Shanahan's creative run game design, you would think that he could have their heads spinning in that regard. It just strikes me that the 49ers have enough talent. I mean, I was making the argument last night, and I stand by it, that there are 4 49ers players that deserve to be in the top 10 of the NFL's 100 best players in 2022. Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Debo Samuel, and who the heck am I thinking of? Kittle, George Kittle, right? I mean, if they've all got to be top 20 for sure. I cannot imagine a scenario where they're not. I mean, Kittle was 7 last year. You could see him dropping a little bit, but it'll be the recency bias of these couple of really electric games he's had that I would think would keep him in the top 10. Trent Williams deserves to be a top 5. I mean, just maybe the most dominant season I've seen from a left tackle since Jonathan Ogden, and that's saying something. Ravens. Yeah. And Nick Bosa, on pace to potentially break Aldon Smith's record and was already viewed to be a phenomenal player last year, even having missed the season because of injury. And Debo Samuel, I mean, what else can you say about the man? He's such a large percentage of the 49ers offense. I guess it could be dependent upon him getting back into usage in the pass game just to make sure that, those receiving numbers continue to climb. But yes, it is definitely a positive thing. I just want to bring this in because Jesse from Last Second Sports was calling it out. Yes, thank you for pointing it out, Jesse. I am posting a YouTube link. It should take you to the members page. This one is a video call-in, so it is Sneakerheads only, members of the channel, and therefore it takes you to the link on the YouTube page. I will do a voice-only call-in show in the future for everybody, and in that case, I will post the StreamYard link. But the StreamYard link is in the link that I sent, which will be taking you to the community tab of my YouTube page. I know it works because that's how Sean got in here. And someone flashed in, I think it was Joseph flashed in, but then had to bounce. But we will get anyone else in as well. May even bring in 2 callers at once to keep the dialogue going. Sorry, please continue, Sean.
Well, no, I'll jump off of what you mentioned. I mean, you said we have 4 in the top 10. So this is what's interesting, right? If you were to ask any other team's fans, hey, we have 4 top 10 players in the NFL voted on by players. They would think, great, you guys were number 1 seed this year. You know, what happened? You know, it's interesting with, you know, the way the 49ers are built. And I said this earlier in the year, we have someone elite at every level on our team. Interesting, right? Now, I won't count, you know, Robbie Goldman, you know, Wisnowski and all that stuff. But in terms of offense, defense.
Right.
Now, everyone's going to say, what are you talking about, Sean? Garoppolo's not elite. Fact. But I'm not using that as a group of people. I'm talking about a group. So our O-line, we have Williams.
Yes.
D-line, we have Bosa.
Yep.
Middle linebacker, hey, we all love Aziz now, but Fred Warner, all-pro last year.
Yep.
Still solid this year. And to be honest with you, Ward, obviously, as a safety. Now,
Jimmy Ward. He doesn't get the recognition, but he deserves it.
And cornerbacks, if we want to keep it real, like is Mosley not elite this year? I mean, statistics, not giving up even a tud. Now, he'll be back, so hopefully he can come back to form. I mean, a foot's a foot. You need that to make sure that you're on top of your game. But
yes, you do.
We have one person at every single level. And if you look at the games this year, too, you know, we are as good as our record is. So I'm not the guy that comes on here and says, oh, we should be undefeated. So one play a game.
Right.
But the Green Bay game, right? I mean, let's just keep it real. Like, D'Amico Ryan's worst series of the season, 2 plays, right? 40 yards, field goal.
Very painful.
That's a win. 3-0 team at that point. Mentally, that's a whole different way of rolling into that Seattle game 3-0.
Yes, most definitely.
In week four.
That would change the momentum for sure.
And look how we started in week 4. Defense, they had negative yards at half with Seattle's offense. We just couldn't score 7-7. You know, you put up a couple scores there. It's a whole different vibe going. And like we say, we're not built to play from behind.
No, we are not.
And they have a better quarterback. We all understand, even though Russell's down this year, better quarterback. He came through. We didn't. We lost by a touchdown. But then you look at it going off of that game and moving forward with Arizona. I think that was the Colts after the bye and such. We just got caught in a nasty rut during that series. It was just a snowball effect, right? Kyle was even in a rut. But as soon as we hit that Rams game with desperation, you know, that Monday night game right there, in my opinion, I think that lifted every single one of the players on our team to say, gosh, dang it, we can't actually, we are that good. We just haven't seen it.
Yes.
And Jacksonville's Jacksonville. And who do we beat next after Jacksonville? Bears?
I believe so.
Or Bears, or however it played out. We got fortunate to go through a couple games where we played some inferior teams to get our mojo back and get that confidence going. And to me, you know, running through the Vikings the way that we did, I just can't see this team having a letdown mentally, knowing what they have to do in order to keep that spot to a Falcons team. You know, Tennessee next week, I know a lot of people on here are going to say it's a Thursday night game. That's tough. You know, no travel. You can't practice. I mean, travel, you can't practice. Sure.
It will be tough.
But I tell you what, you know, we run through the Falcons in this game. If we do it the way we should, Falcons, I mean, I watched the Falcons guy that was with you earlier on here.
Aaron Freeman. Great. That was a great interview. Aaron was top notch.
But I'll tell you what, I actually finally watched video on Falcons. Their defense is bad.
It was to start the year, and it doesn't have very many stars on it.
I don't know how, other than turnovers, right? The obvious, right? I don't see how it playing out in this game in which our offense doesn't. I can't see a scenario where the offense doesn't punt more than a once or twice in this game and just controls the clock and just flat out doesn't give Atlanta the ability possession wise to keep up. I mean, this game, it's not like 2019. This is a whole different game. They do not have the star power. Matty Ice, not Matty Ice anymore.
Yeah, if the 49ers are able to run on them and do not turn the ball over, because that's been the difference for the Falcons in the research that I did and looking at the rebound for their defense, because they have turned it on a bit over the past 4 weeks. It was a difference of, I believe, 8 total turnovers through their first 10 games of the season, and then 7 over the past 4 weeks, over the past 4 games. And so to average close to 2 turnovers per game, if they can force 2 turnovers against us, unless we match that turnover differential, I just can't imagine us coming out on top. So that could be a critical element to if it turns out to be a close game. But I agree that there's the possibility this one trends towards what we saw in 2019 against Carolina, against the Bengals, where you just start to roll on the other team and it gets out of hand. But I'm nervous. Coming back from an East Coast start, we have been bad after those games. Atlanta is highly motivated. So I hope that 49er faithful like yourself who predict more of a lopsided victory are correct about it. I think my fear is that Atlanta is riding high and the 49ers may overlook them a little bit because of their record, because of the fact that the defense is suspect and was more so early on in the season.
At the end of the day, you can't dispute anything you said. I mean, all of that's completely viable and could happen. I just see, if our offense starts out that way, I see it, then it could possibly turn into Seattle's first game.
Yes.
Where defense destroys them. They don't have any ability to put the ball in the end zone. Ward takes out Pitts or whoever they put on him. I don't know if Aziz is playing or not. But whoever has him, you eliminate him because at the end of the day, they don't have anybody else. Their other receivers are not going to have time to get open with their O-line and the way our D-line's been playing the last couple of weeks. I know we've talked, or not we, but I've heard, talks in there, hey, it's Bosa or bust on the D-line. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm a firm believer in pressures are almost as good as sacks.
Yes.
Matty Ice has been, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's been sacked the most in 2020 and 2021 by all QBs in NFL.
I believe it. The man's taken a lot of hits.
So the guy's old too, right? So you would think he's going to be sitting there going, okay, well, if the game plan's not to get the ball out fast, I'm going to be throwing the ball when I feel like my clock's out. And if we can just get Bosa or even KK or somebody early in the game to get on a blitz and just smoke him in the back or whatever, illegally, but just smoke him and get him, okay, wait a second. This is what I see on film. This is an issue. This is coming back to fruition. I remember this from 2019. Bosa got him. That I just think right there is just it's gonna destroy Ryan himself out of the game plan of whatever their game plan is coming into this, which I would assume would be everyone else's short passes, screens, anything to keep the D-line off of them. I just don't think with our linebackers and their speed that they're going to have the ability to be successful. They're just not a good team. It's not something where we're talking crap on Seattle where they're a divisional opponent. Right. I literally don't see anything from them if you take Pitts out that'll give them the ability to score enough points. Hence, look at their season that they've had as well. It's all come true. The only games that they played tight, divisional games, always happens, and their wins are all against terrible teams. Even when you talked to that gentleman earlier, he was on another Locked On.
Yeah, he is on the Locked On network, and so they did a Locked On pairing of Locked On Atlanta and Locked On Niners.
And I will say, you can almost, it's almost telling. Like last week with the Bengals, their Locked On guy, I don't know his name, but he came on and he predicted like 27-24 49ers, Locked On Bengals.
Ooh.
Right, so like pretty close. Right there on the money, right? Even if we don't have OT, it's still
That's
a 3-point
damn good
win,
prediction.
Right? You look at him this week with Atlanta. The guy has no confidence in his team. There was not even one question you asked or in Locked On that he had any optimism. Everything he said was, if this guy plays out of his mind and if this guy does this, we might be able to contain this. But you can tell if your main people don't have the faith that someone like yourself and myself have in the team that we see. It's just an indication of, since we don't follow them, they probably see this is a fallacy when it comes to, you're 6-7, but you're the worst 6-7 team of the bunch since we've seen 2 of those top guys.
Yes, Minnesota. That was the game earlier that we were searching for. That was the 3rd game in the 3 games we won in a row was the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, there you go. And also, I believe they played Tampa 2 out of the last 3 after us. So, just doing math here, they're toast. Even if we somehow were crazy and drop this game, you throw them in, they're done. But But when it comes to Minnesota, tiebreaker. Eagles, tiebreaker. Saints, I think they're toast. They're in trouble.
Yeah, tough
So
division. Don't have a true
yeah.
quarterback. That's tough to do.
Yeah, so for us, we need to just put together a solid game. Jimmy do what Jimmy does, which I know no one on here wants to hear that. That means a pick. But he just has to operate our offense. Just operate our offense. We'll run the ball. Hopefully Mitchell's back. Is Mitchell limited this week? I didn't check.
He's been limited up in practices up until today. So it's still up in the air as to whether he will be back. Fingers crossed.
Kyle likes to do that, though. You notice a lot of limited.
Absolutely. Keep it in question. For sure.
He's funny with that. He's Mr. like with the whole quarterback thing.
He's old school. He's like his dad in that, like that's what it used to be like in the NFL. And then it just has carried over for him. Yeah.
So, I mean, hopefully he's in. If not, fine. We've been there, done that. And, get past it. I mean, honestly, get past this week, win this game. And then I'll tell you what, Thursday, it's only, in my opinion, it's going to be a tough game because of the circumstances working against us.
Yes.
But if you look at mano-a-mano, players versus players on paper, yes, they may have not Julio Jones. Who's the other guy, that good receiver?
They have Kyle Pitts as their tight end, and then Russell Gage is their leading wide receiver right now. Oh, for Tennessee. Tennessee does have Julio Jones, and then they have A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown. I think he's coming off the injured list or whatever. Maybe
man, if he and Derrick Henry are playing, that changes that game.
Henry won't be playing, but Brown should be playing. But to me, though, I look at Brown as a worse than Henry because our run defense has been a lot better. Henry's coming back. He may not be 100, but Brown on the CBs, if we don't have Mosley, actually we won't, right? That'll be game 3. So that to me would be tougher. But I really think that game for me will tell me more about this team moving forward, because this feels like the Ravens two different times. The Ravens game we played after we beat Green Bay in 2019, where we went to Lamar's house and we lost by a field goal.
I was there in the rain. I remember it.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but that was tough. But you lose. So they had that game, and then the Thursday night game against the Ravens in the Harbaugh years.
Yes.
Where we had to go on Thanksgiving to his brother's house.
That was a tough loss.
But you see, like, the way they played in both of those games were incredible. It came down to the end. That's what I want to see from this team, because you're going to come back after 4 days and get in an environment where they're fighting for their life. We're on there. If we come out of there with a win, which I don't believe we need if we beat the Falcons.
No.
But if we come out of there with a win, I don't even care how we do it. You can run back 7 punt returns, like whatever it is. When you come out of that with a win, I'll have a whole different outlook for the way I see playoffs playing out, barring injury.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, I'm going to remain optimistic with you that they are able to take it. Sean, this has been a fantastic first call. I do have Waruna in the waiting room now, so I'm going to switch over to the second caller in the show. But Sean, this will live on in infamy as the first call in on the first show, and it was a great conversation. I really enjoyed meeting you today and getting to talk Niner football with you, Sean. Appreciate you calling in.
I appreciate it very much, Rob. Anytime, you let me know. And to all your fans out there and all the guys I chat with in the comments, hey, nice to meet you guys as well. Hopefully we can continue to do that.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much, Rob.
Absolutely, Sean. You have a good evening, sir. All right, we are adding Waruna to the stream. Waruna, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you too. I think this is the first time we are talking.
Yes, yes. I'm very excited about it. Very excited to get you in. I want to update some folks on something I saw in the chat that came in a couple of times. A little update on a previous 49er player. I am looking for the comment, and here we go. Ellis10 brought it in first. Nick Mullins starting for the Browns this Saturday. COVID has brought us a present in the form of Nick Mullins. Joseph Manna came in to announce it. Nick Mullins announced it proudly in the super chat and then came back a second time to say the same thing over again. Nick Mullins, Nick Mullins. Joseph Manna, appreciate the super chats. Appreciate you pointing out Nick Mullins coming in. Got Luke Luna making the appearance in the super chat as well. Luke is busy performing tattoo art. He is tattooing at the moment, but he's here, nothing but love. Well, hopefully we don't say anything shocking that requires you to leave a funny mark on somebody's tattoo. Hopefully you are able to keep the hand steady. That's important in tattoo work. All right, Waruna, what is going on with you today, my friend?
I'm doing fine. Congratulations again, Nick Mullins. I mean, I
Thank
wrote
you.
articles sometime back about titled "The Curious Case of Nick Mullins"
Yes.
because he has some weird stats. In the sense, he broke the record in Mississippi State, which was held by Brett Favre for the passing yards. Then after 13 games in NFL, he was, in terms of his passing yards, he was third behind Patrick Mahomes and Andrew Luck. Super weird stats.
Very strange stats.
Yes. So, but where I saw it about Nick Mullins is that even last season, if you remember the game, Giants game, when he came on, he had like 300, close to 350 passing yards, good game. The very next week, I was thinking, okay, Jimmy is gone, but maybe this guy will be able to carry us to get at least 10 wins, right?
Right.
Eagles game, first drive, he throws way about Kyle Juszczyk. And that's it. That's it. He never comes back. I think that's part of the problem that he has, that he has a great heart. He's physically tough.
Yes.
No matter how hard, because last season he got hammered. Tackle after tackle. I mean, snap after snap. Every play he got hammered. But he would get up and play. He would put his, body on the line for the 49ers. He would do that. But he cannot mentally overcome what the challenge is. So I think that's the difference. I mean, he's a limited quarterback. I mean, we don't have...
Yes, physically limited for sure.
Yes, so we don't have to say that he's at, let's say, serviceable level, starting caliber quarterback, but he's a okay backup. But the problem is that mental game, it betrays him. So that's what I saw about Nick Mullins. So unfortunately, I hope he will get it right this time. Not sure.
Yes, me too. I mean, that's a talented Browns team. It will take... It's interesting. So the NFL put out new COVID related restrictions that allow for people who are vaccinated and asymptomatic to have 2 tests in a shorter period of time and still play. So it will be interesting to see. You won't know before the game day who's out and who's in at the same level you would have prior to this release of new information, because before it was like you were out for the whole week. If you had COVID, boom, it didn't matter if you were vaccinated, asymptomatic, had negative tests, you had to wait X number of days. Now it is vastly changed. I've not studied it yet. It seemed fairly complex, but if I understand it correctly, it is if you are vaccinated and asymptomatic, it is just a matter of getting 2 negative tests after a positive, and that can be done in a matter of days. And so the Browns have a lot of people currently listed on being out with COVID, but several of those could come back. So Nick could be surrounded by a pretty talented team out there. This could be an opportunity for him to showcase his talents. You know, I mean, the guy certainly has what it takes to be a quality backup in this league. And that's a cushy job to get, Waruna. That is a like $7 million a year to hold a clipboard and play maybe 1 game. That's the job everyone should want.
Exactly. Why not? I mean, end of the day, you can end up being like Mark Sanchez. I mean, he has a lucrative media deals.
Yes, work it into getting that media job. That's what I want. I'm waiting for NBC or Fox to call me up and say, Rob, we're down an announcer this week, and we've seen your YouTube channel. It's fantastic. We want to bring you in for a workout.
I wish they do, because these commentaries do really suck. Because I was just watching the 49 and Bengals game. Some of these
Yeah.
commentators have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, it is brutal sometimes. The Rocky Mountain Razorback thinks I could do it.
Yes, I do. I totally agree, because the thing is, what I see from this comment, it's a very interesting subject, because why I really love the commentary is that when I was growing up as a kid, so cricket was our game, sport. So it was like religion to us, cricket. Now, when you don't have TV, or when you are traveling, radio is the only way, because cricket matches go on for a long period of time, right? Usually it
Yeah,
start 10 a.m. in the morning, goes until 5 o'clock in the evening, right? So
right.
you have like 6 hours of playing time. So you are listening
Yes,
to the game. So commentators should be able to, especially the radio commentators, should be able to give you the visual, even though you are not in the ground. So it's an art. So
it
that's
is
why I
very
really
much an art form.
yes, it's an art. So when I see these guys, sometimes they don't do their homework. I think that's the word, because I saw like they were making a comment about, not going into the Jimmy Garoppolo subject, but they are just to explain their understanding about the 49ers and what they are doing. Now we know that why we are a run first team, why we prefer, even us as fans, why we prefer if we run the ball more, because we don't want to let Jimmy Garoppolo to decide the game based. I mean, we don't want Jimmy Garoppolo to carry the team, put the game on his shoulders. So,
Right.
right. But these guys were saying like, okay, last 3 to 4 weeks, Jimmy Garoppolo did not throw that much. Maybe he should change that. Maybe he should start throwing more. I was like, okay, you understand? Have you at least, because maybe you, if you spend before the game 2 to 3 hours, just go through the articles of like beat writers or whatever, whoever is, even at least follow some articles on ESPN, you know what's the really deal is, you know why
Yes.
this team is playing this way.
Most definitely the beat writers. That's what you have to key into, is the people who cover this team on a 24/7 basis. They are plugged in, and you could read a half dozen articles and be pretty well caught up with what's going on with the 49ers, what the storylines are,
Yeah,
why Jimmy Garoppolo may be limited in his passing attempts, and why the 49ers benefit from a dose of run heavy offense for sure.
yeah. So because we discussed this topic in our Genuine Draft podcast this week as well with Randon and Crypto. So I think it eventually comes down to a point, especially now. Pino, we are dealing with Pino. He's one of our guests in the podcast. So he belongs to the younger generation. So he was like, I don't care about the commentary. Sometimes I just mute it and just watch the game. Now there is that concerns me, because we
Sure.
grew up with a generation that commentary was something that we always relied on, because that gave us the insights, the
Yes.
players and everything.
I
So
mean, I remember John Madden and Pat Summerall changed the game for me. Those two were unreal growing up watching football. I loved John Madden.
yeah, for the every sport, it's like that. You have
Yes.
legendary commentators in every sport. When you because the game is that's like icing on the cake. You want to watch the game as well as listen to their commentary. Sometimes I used to do that. Like I watch the game on TV and watch the radio commentary, because that commentary is so good.
Yes.
So
Because on the radio, they understand that they have to paint the full picture. They understand that there's no visual medium that fans are relying upon. And therefore, they use their words in a way that paints that picture. Totally agree. You do have a different level of professionalism going on there. And I do think that the 49ers in some of their matchups have gotten some of those B-level broadcasters that then you're getting sort of the dregs of it, the worst of the worst, and it shows sometimes.
Yes, yes. So let's stick to the 49er talk this because Rocky Mountain Raceback is just
I
reminding us
think he
that
was referring to, I mentioned COVID. People had some COVID comments, and so there was the request to keep it Niners related in the chat. I don't think that comes into us, but it does give me, I do want to pull this up because Matthew asked a valid question. This is the first Sneakerhead call-in show that there has ever been, and so there's going to be a lot of clarification needed. But yes, the term sneakerhead comes from people who join the channel. After you've subscribed, there's a way to further support the channel by joining. And because of my name, Rob Schuh, it was a play on words that people who join the channel become sneakerheads. People who are interested in shoes. I'm a shoe. It works that way,
yes,
right? So once you are a sneakerhead, you then get access to the community tab on my YouTube page where messages from me to just people who are part of the community go out. And I put the link for this video call in on that page. I will post the link again. So anyone who is a member of the channel will only be on for a couple more minutes, but anyone who's a member of the channel can go there and click that link and they will be able to call in. When we do another one of these, hold on, I got to mute somebody in the comments because that looks like spam. I will do one that is open to everybody. It won't be video like this. You won't be shown like Waruna is right here because of safety precautions there. But then I'll put the StreamYard link straight into the chat. This one requires you to be a member and then go there. All right, sorry, Waruna, please continue with 49ers related content.
Yes, 49ers related. So I was just thinking about this now about running backs. I really needed Jeff Wilson back because when Mostert went down, I was really worried because Mostert and Mitchell is good. Don't get me wrong, but Mostert is on another level.
A whole nother level.
Whole nother level. The closest to that was Wilson because his explosiveness, his ability to just shoot through the gaps, even you have whatever the defenders. So that's something I did not see from other running backs. I don't think there aren't many running backs in the league as well that who can play. Especially if you remember the game last year against New England, the way Wilson played. I mean, that's just out of your mind.
He's unbelievable. I mean, it really is wild what he can do within this offense. His vision is unparalleled. The way in which he sees the seams that open up in Kyle Shanahan's offense and then has the speed to execute and hit those seams. And it just seemed like there was a home run ball almost every game. There was that time where he would break open enough and then just tear off down the field.
Yes. So I was thinking, so I want your idea on this. Have you seen that in Wilson this year after his injury? I just feel like still he is not there. The Wilson that we love, we used to know.
I agree that he's not quite back to where he's at. One of my favorite beat reporters is Matt Barrows. He is and has been my favorite 49ers beat reporter since, I don't know, maybe 2008, 2009. I love his sense of humor and the way he brings that into his writing. And he's one of many that I follow. I soak in Niners content for sure. But Matt talked about the fact that it's typically a 6 to 8 week recovery window once you come back from a severe injury like this, where you're really ramping up to full speed. And he indicated what he's seeing in Jeff Wilson, and it matches what I think I'm seeing, is that we're just getting to the precipice of that point. We are just cresting that 6-week return for him. I anticipate as this season continues, as we finish out the regular season heading into the playoffs, I believe that Wilson will continue rounding into form. Felipe is seeing it too. Wilson looked better last Sunday, but yeah, he's not all the way back. I'm in agreement on that. It's more of what I was used to seeing with Jeff Wilson Jr., but it's not quite what you're hoping for, not quite pre-injury form. But I think even pre-injury form, there's a big delta between what Mostert brings and anyone else, even a healthy Jeff Wilson Jr.
Yeah, I think I can't imagine if Mostert can stay healthy for a one season and he can maybe have, let's say, 15 to 20 carries per game.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's potentially a 2,000-yard season right there. I mean, I do think that what you've got to hope for with Mostert, because I just can't imagine he's got such an upright running style. He does have a tendency towards injury, and he runs so fast. So running that fast and running upright, you're primed for some big hits. I think his target should really be closer to like 12 carries. I think he's that 10 to 12 carry
Yes.
a game guy. And that's maybe how he lasts a season. I think if you can bring back Mostert on a discounted deal next year and pair him with Elijah Mitchell and have Trey Sermon in there as more of a power back, and hopefully he rounds into form, where you're getting Elijah Mitchell in the 15 carry range, Mostert in the 10 carry range, and then a few carries doled out around the rest of the roster, that could be a really dangerous backfield, Runa.
Yes, so that's what really disappointed me when Mostert got injured, because before the season, when we were talking with Grant, and I wrote an article saying that 10 to 12 would be the ideal carries per game for Mostert. Then we can use him that way until the playoffs. Once the playoffs comes in, we don't care anymore. We just unleash him.
That's right.
But
At that
that guy
point, what
goes
the hell's
down
the
very first
risk?
game of the season, and I'm
Oh,
like, oh my God.
it was brutal. Because you knew that he had an injury history and a tendency to get injured, but no one expected him to get injured for the season week one. I don't care how pessimistic you were about the signing before the year and whether you predicted he would be out. I don't think anybody correctly predicted it would be like the third snap of the season and then done. So yeah, that highly, highly disappointing. That's for sure.
Yes. So yeah.
All right.
So I
Well, Runa, I'm going to have you help me answer this question coming up in just 1 second. I do want to. Steven Duarte was like, "Hey, when I saw Sneakerhead, I literally expected you to be showing off shoes," and he was down for that. So, just for the people that need to have some sort of sneaker head theme to this thing, there it is. There's a sneaker. It's a Niner sneaker. It's lovely. It's not available for purchase, unfortunately, but it is my sneaker. It is Rob Schuh's shoe. I mean, that is what it is. So you have officially been a part of a sneakerhead celebration. But here's the question we're going to answer together with Runa. Chris, a fellow sneakerhead coming in. Matt Ryan versus our secondary is concerning me. What are your thoughts? All right, Waruna, what do you think? On the outside, we have Josh Norman, and I would think that Dante Johnson will probably be back and probably get the start if he does. But either Dante Johnson or Ambry Thomas on the outside, and then Jimmy Ward, Jaquaski Tart, and obviously Talanoa Hufanga getting worked in more and more along with Jaquaski Tart. Where do you see the biggest fear in that matchup for you, Aruna?
I mean, I was saying this from the second week onwards, saying that our secondary isn't that good apart from apart from our safeties, our cornerbacks. Now, it's not, I think that question, we can replace the Matt Ryan with any quarterback who is capable, who is
Yes.
smart. Any quarterback can make our secondary pay. Even last week we saw Joe Burrow is trying to make that chunk plays, and
Yes.
we almost.
He's a very capable quarterback, but yes, I agree that against this
Yes. So
secondary, it does not take an elite quarterback.
yes, because even Jama Chase, if he held on to that ball, it would have been a touchdown. So
Yep,
we
that
were
could have been the
lucky.
game.
It could have been the game. So we were lucky. So I would say it will eventually comes down to how the things that Demico Ryans can scheme up depending on the situation, how well he's going to adjust in-game adjustments, making sure, okay, after one drive, okay, if he sees something, okay, this is what Atlanta is going to do, okay, let's just switch things up, let's make some adjustments and what not. So until otherwise, I don't think there is anything we can fix at this moment because we can't fix a personnel. It's
No.
too late.
Far too late. Yeah, the roster was constructed in a flawed manner in the
Yeah.
secondary. When you brought in Jason Verrett to be penciled in as your first string cornerback, the best starter that you have, the shutdown corner, that's fine. But you needed to then invest in a very quality backup for the likelihood that Verrett was going to miss some time. Now, again, I think it wasn't fair to expect he would get injured in the first game and miss the entire rest of the season, but it was fair to expect he would miss 4 or 5 games this year.
Yes.
And what was the plan there? You took Ambry Thomas that you knew was a project. You knew he hadn't played football in a year. So if that was your third round investment, that was flawed personnel decisions from the get-go. Yes, it was unfair to look at that week 1 injury and say, oh, you should have predicted that Verrett would have missed the entire season. No, that's not fair, but you should have had a better backup plan in place. The idea that we had to turn to Josh Norman to be the savior of this season, I agree, Waruna. It points to flawed roster building. That's for sure. In my answer, touching on this, I think Ellis is right to some extent. Another sneakerhead getting brought in here. He says, if I'm not mistaken, the only 2 real threats are Patterson, Cordarrelle Patterson. I always get that one wrong. I always want to say, I forget what I want to say, but Cordarrelle is the correct pronunciation, if I'm correct. And then Kyle Pitts. Double team Pitts, my thoughts. I think that Jimmy Ward can take away Kyle Pitts for the most part by himself. I think Jimmy Ward can shadow tight ends like nobody's business. And then, yes, I do think that Cordarrelle is the focus of that offense, much like Deebo Samuel. So I think that the front 7 is going to be entirely focused on Cordarrelle. The sneaky one here for me is actually on the outside with Russell Gage, how the 49ers match up against him. Now, he'll play primarily out of the slot, so that should be K'Wan Williams. I think it sets up pretty nicely for the 49ers to be able to manhandle the Falcons with regard to their pass game. I think they will try to take it off at the head, attack the monster at the head in hitting Matt Ryan, in bringing the pressure. Nick Bosa and company will have their work cut out for them getting after Matt Ryan, the immobile quarterback against the Atlanta Falcons. How's that sound to you, Waruna? Is that a recipe for success?
I think exactly because at this moment, especially as you said, at this moment, we can't bring any drastic changes. So you have to do better on things that you are good at and do okay at things that you are bad. So basically, meaning
minimize those areas that are weaknesses.
Yes, stay disciplined. That's the number 1 thing. Stay disciplined. Don't give PI penalties because the league is designed in that way. Whatever you even touch, even do something, you will get a PI penalty. So stay disciplined. I think we have done a good job on that. I mean, after week 8, I think it was in a way ridiculous because week 8, during practices, 49er defensive backs were, on the practice, they were just trying out basic skills of defending, something that you don't do in the middle of the season. These are things
Right.
that you will do preseason or during your whatever the off times. But team was that secondary.
You know, the only thing I would say is that there are times where getting back to basics can be a good thing. And the 49ers were all up in their own heads at some point this year. So I think you're spot on in saying that typically that's something that you're drilling home at the beginning of the year. And maybe it's pointing out that the 49ers failed to do that, if in fact they did fail to do that. It's hard for me to say without being in attendance of all the preseason practices. It's not typically something you would see, but I'm almost on board with it. Like normally I'd be with you that it's criticism. It should be something that's handled before the season. But there was such a dysfunction on this team during that stretch of rough games that I think it was warranted. You know, people laughed at George Kittle carrying around the football after he fumbled in that game and being like, Bosa even said, he's like, yeah, I did that in high school. But Kittle was going back to basics. It was really like, first principles thinking. You know what I mean? Really getting back to what's the simplest thing. So I think normally I'd agree. In this instance, it may have been beneficial for him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the only thing is that where I saw this is like good teams, great teams, usually at that point of the season, they are making more plans. They are thinking of scheming things,
Yes,
better
right.
plays. Because now the players are in rhythm. They are back to playing this contact football and everything now. Their bodies are in rhythm with what they have to achieve. Extra things, how they can go to the next level. But we
Uh-oh.
were.
We're losing the internet connection on you, Waruna.
I think it's on my
Oh, you're
part.
good. You're back now.
Okay, sorry.
All right, we'll close on this
It's
because I
my
got to wrap up. I have a hard out that I've passed by a few minutes, but we have a super chat to close out on. By the way, I wanted to call out that Silverado Kev earlier on agreed with us that bringing Mostert back on a team-friendly deal, that would be awesome. I also just wanted to use it as a moment to say what's up to Silverado Kev because I'm a big fan. We've had him on the program and love it. All right, Waruna, we're going to tackle this one quickly in 5 minutes or less, and then I have to roll. Chris Royale coming in over under Bosa with 1.5 sacks in the Atlanta game. It's interesting because the right tackle for Atlanta is definitely suspect. Left tackle, not so. Just to pull up those names. Jake Matthews in one-on-ones with Nick Bosa should be able to handle himself. Caleb McGarry, not so much. I anticipate a lot of attacking on the left defensive end spot over the right tackle of the offense. Waruna, what say you to the over-under of 1.5?
I would say over.
Smash the over. Smash the over. I like it. I like it. I think I have to go that direction too. Matt Ryan is an immobile quarterback. You have a suspect right tackle. The 49ers hopefully will get up in this one, and so you'll have Atlanta in obvious passing situations. And it's not a wildly talented offense. It's not as if they have 3 or 4 very solid players to get the ball out to. It is Kyle Pitts is their deep threat. Russell Gage is their slot possession receiver. And then it is the Cordarrelle Patterson show. And 30% of the offense is going to run through him, but primarily through rushing the ball. Jan is definitely smashing the over in 3 sacks. Matthew Mears taking the over with 2 sacks. I love it. Chris himself, I think he eats. I'm thinking at least 2. I could see 3, honestly. Well, that would be spectacular. Waruna, I want to thank you for joining me as my second ever call-in on the very first Sneakerhead call-in show. This is going to be a regular occurrence going forward. So to all of the sneakerheads out there, clear some time on Thursday afternoons because we are going to do this thing, and I want to have a full waiting room down there of folks calling in to get on video. And I will do another call-in show that is audio only that'll be open to everybody on the channel. Anyone who wants to call in can call in. I hope people appreciate the fact that it requires people with some skin in the game that are sneakerheads that I trust to have the video on. Waruna, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the discussion.
Absolutely. Cheers to all the 49er faithful out there. I will be on with Grant Cohn tomorrow and then going live on my channel immediately following that. Let's go watch some Thursday night football. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.